It's a pity that I have to make a video like this. I'm an African American. For those of you who know, I'm a proud African American. And for this reason, I've been called a militant by so many people who happen to be of the MAGA, the Trumpers. I make no apologies for it. I don't cry about it. I represent myself and my country the best way I know how. And unfortunately, there have been times where I've been ashamed of being a black man, ashamed of being an African American, ashamed that I see things, see my people, see people who have my skin tone act as African Americans do. And not to mention, see that my people can be denigrated, disrespected, and the people in power who happen to be African American, Scott, I'm talking about you, let themselves be denigrated by a madman, by a racist, by a bigot. This past weekend was CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Committee, and of course, the South Carolina Republican Party, the Republican Party primary. The fact is, Donald Trump at one of his idiotic rallies, I can't even stomach what this man said. This is what he said.
And then I got indicted a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually viewed me as I'm being discriminated against. It's been pretty amazing. But
African Americans love me because I got indicted 4 times. In the past, he said that I understand the prejudice of African Americans go through, the persecution that African Americans go through, because he had to pay his workers in his businesses. This weekend, a Fox News commentator said that African Americans will crowd to Donald Trump because the African American loves his sneakers. They just love sneakers. African Americans, through the history of this nation, have been denigrated, disrespected, have been shown nothing but disrespect in this country's history. Now it's gotten veiled, very quiet like persecution now, but however, in the time that we've had in the modern age of this country, we are living in a nation where an African American was elected president of the United States. Of course, I'm talking about Barack Obama. We are living in a nation that have had African American greats in our country. On my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page, and I know the CTP know the truth, I have posted African American inventors, leaders, soldiers. I have posted African Americans excelling in making this great nation better, greater, stronger, more united. And all of that in one weekend by one madman's speech, by a madman who is so narcissistic, so incredibly egotistical that he says that people should vote, that the black people love me because I know the persecution of African Americans too. That to me, and this is my own personal opinion, although I pray that a lot of people would agree with me that this was ridiculous. This was in complete, total racism, showing its head. I should vote for Donald Trump because he's being persecuted like I was, because of my black skin. I should vote for him because he was persecuted like Emmett Till was, like Marcus Garvey was, like Medgar Evers was, like Martin Luther King was, like Malcolm X was, like the whole horrid history of African American persecution, the whole horrid history of what African Americans had to go through in this country because of the tone of their skin. I should vote for a man who is facing 91 felony counts. Now let's go beyond that. Let's put a pin in those felony counts for a moment. I should vote for a man who says, I understand what African Americans go through because I'm being persecuted too. Trump has never been persecuted because of the color of his skin. Or let's even go even further, his sexual orientation or anything else tangible like that. Donald Trump was prosecuted and investigated by the DOJ in the 1970s because he was a racist. He still is a racist. But back in the 1970s, just to give you clarification of this man was investigated and sued by the DOJ because he refused to rent to tenants of color in his buildings. And we have direct evidence of that. People have come out and say that he refused to rent to people because of their skin color, because of their race.
14,000 apartments in 39 different buildings, all mostly white tenants. That is until the Department of Justice took notice in 1973 and slammed Donald Trump and his father Fred Trump with a lawsuit. Trump management was charged with discriminating against African Americans and breaking federal law. Donald Trump, then just 27, was president of the company. The Department of Justice accused the Trumps of violating the Fair Housing Act, arguing they were turning away renters based on race and color. Who tipped them off? Local activists, so-called testers, posing as potential renters at Trump's buildings, mainly in Brooklyn and Queens.
When the black testers came, they were shown, they may have been shown apartments, but were told nothing was available. Whereas when the white testers came, yes, there were things that were available. That would be the norm.
And if the Trumps did rent to a black person, Goldweber recalls, they would do so only at one building in Brooklyn, reserving the other buildings for white tenants. And according to the Justice Department, they even had a secret coding system to do it. A racial code. Here's how.
Some of the applications were marked with a C, which we learned that it meant colored, so that the prospective tenants who had come in were noted to be colored.
Yes, you heard her right. The Department of Justice alleged applications submitted by prospective African American renters were designated with a secret code, such as C for colored, to indicate a black person was looking to rent.
People have said that, and it has been confirmed. We're talking about, man, these people, these African Americans who support Trump say, I should vote for Trump. Because honestly, this guy says, this man actually put out full-page ads about the Central Park Five, about a crime they did not commit, screaming for the death penalty for them. And even after DNA evidence shows they didn't do it and they were exonerated, to this very day, he has not apologized to them. He has not said that he was wrong. He didn't even acknowledge the fact that DNA evidence cleared them. This is the man who says he understands what persecution is like because he understands African American persecution and humiliation and murder because he's gone through those things. Donald Trump has never been through those things, ever in his entire life. Everything he's been through, the investigations, the lawsuits, the criminal investigations, the indictments, was self-wounding on Donald Trump's part. He did it to himself. Not because he's white, but because he's Donald Trump. He is a crook. Plain and simple. And we can go directly to his presidency. And I'm sorry for even mentioning this and mentioning her. But the Unite the Right rally, where neo-Nazis and Ku Klux Klansmen marched proudly on the streets of the University of Virginia, saying Jews will not replace us. And I apologize for mentioning this woman, but I have to because it makes the point home. Heather Heyer was murdered on that weekend by a racist, inspired by Donald Trump himself. Donald Trump inspired a psychopath to go to the University of Virginia to kill, all because of one man's insanity. And what did Donald Trump do about it? During those rallies that weekend, he equated the neo-Nazis and Ku Klux Klansmen, his supporters. He tried to equate those people with the people who protested against those white
supremacists on the same moral plane.
I'm not putting anybody on a moral plane. What I'm saying is this. You had a group on one side and you had a group on the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious, and it was horrible, and it was a horrible thing to watch. But there is another side. There was a group on this side, you can call them the left, or you've just called them the left, that came violently attacking the other group. So you can say what you want, but that's the way it is.
On both sides, sir? You said there was hatred, there was violence on both sides.
Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say.
Neo-Nazis started this. They showed up in Charlottesville. They showed up in Charlottesville to protest.
Excuse me. They didn't put themselves down as neo, and you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Heather Heyer was murdered that weekend by a man who followed the example of a racist who was then President of the United States. After the aftermath of the hurricane that hit Puerto Rico, and this is drawing back from his racism, he told refugees, American citizens who were suffering a calamity on an American territory, not to come to the United States, seeking shelter, because they were Puerto Rican, because they were Hispanic. During the George Floyd riots, after the entire world, not just the United States, not just every black man or woman in this country, but the entire world saw a police officer murdering a black man, regardless of how you feel about George Floyd. What did Donald Trump do or say about that horror? Nothing. Black lives do not matter to Donald Trump. They never have, and frankly, I don't think they ever will. Black lives do not matter. Lives of color, I should say, do not matter to Donald Trump. They don't matter to him at all. Why they don't matter? Because he sees us He sees people of color as a means to an end. He said so many times in order for him to be reelected president. Sure, he'll throw us bones, but what does the black life matter to him? The answer is nothing. Nothing. If I'm going to vote for Donald Trump, I'm going to vote for him because of his policies. And those are crap too. But the man shows me what he is. The great Maya Angelou, heaven rest her soul, once said that when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Donald Trump has showed us for decades what kind of man he is. And I don't think he has any kind of chance or any kind of hope of changing at all. I don't think he's going to I don't think he's going to change. I don't think he's going to have a chance to change. This weekend, a statement was released from Jasmine Harris, the black media director for the Biden-Harris 2024 campaign. Now, I went on a rant here, but I think this should be said even more than that this crystallizes what this whole thing is. Quoting her, the audacity of Donald Trump to speak in a room full of black voters during a Black History Month as if he isn't a proud poster boy for modern racism. This is the same man who falsely accused the Central Park Five, questioned George Floyd's humanity, compared his own impeachment trial to being lynched, and ensured the unemployment gap for black workers spiked during his presidency. Donald Trump has been showing black Americans his true colors for years. An incompetent, anti-black tyrant who holds such low regard for that he publicly dined with white nationalists a week after declaring his 2024 candidacy. Come November, and no matter how many disingenuous voters in voter engagements he attends, black Americans will show Donald Trump we know exactly who he is. Unquote. Now, she mentions a couple of things that I forgot to mention on this. Of course, the dinner with Nick Fuentes, a literal Nazi. But that's far and few in between. Donald Trump has shown us that he is a straight-up racist. His followers have shown us that they are straight-up racists and bigots. Just this weekend, a guy on Twitter said, I'm proud to take rights away from Americans. Now, I asked him this because he's a bigot. He's anti-LGBTQ. I asked this of him. You would deprive Americans of the right to get married to whoever they choose, regardless of your feelings? He said, yes, I would. That's un-American. That's bigotry. It's no different than olden times where even back then, sometimes during slave times, unless they got special permission from the slave masters, black people couldn't marry black people. That is what this man is supporting. That is what the MAGA is supporting. That's what African Americans in the MAGA are supporting. People like Tim Scott, who'll smile, laugh, and dance because Donald Trump probably told them to, and are incredibly happy to watch American democracy, American constitutional rights destroyed, all for the sake of Donald Trump. This is one of the few times I can say, and it hurts my heart to say this, that I am ashamed of being a black man in America. Because African Americans who will vote for Donald Trump are voting for their own destruction. They are voting for the destruction of what we have fought so long to become. Americans. People who have freedom in our nation. People who have freedom in our country. People who have the freedom to get married, to have jobs, to become college students. All of that they will see destroyed for the sake of Donald John Trump. A racist. A man who is proud to be a racist. Regardless of how many times he wants to try to explain it away, walk away from it, he is a straight up racist. And I'm going to continue to pound on that until the 2024 election and beyond, even if he wins the presidency, as long as I possibly can. I'm going to keep talking about it. I'm going to keep screaming about it. I will not allow Donald Trump to get away with the racism that he himself has created, has nurtured in this nation. For my brothers and sisters out there, fight with our votes. We still have the vote. Do not let Donald Trump take it away from you. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.